자, 여러분, 다음 그 영상 들어가기 전에 8만 파운드, 그죠? 1파운드가 1648원인데 아까 8만 파운드라고 했습니다. 8만 파운드니까 1억 3,184만 7,200원. 그러니까 아까 그 치약 3개 8만 파운드를 벌 수 있다고 했잖아요. 제가 이거 알려드리기로 했잖아요. 그죠? 8만 파운드. 1억 한 3,200만 원 정도 생각하면 되겠습니다. 그러니까 이렇게 쉽게 돈을 벌 수 있다는 거죠. 자, 챕터 3 완독 들어갈 건데 그 반만 완독 들어간 겁니다. 파란 라벨까지. 근데 8만 파운드 나오면은 1억 3,200만 원 정도라고 생각하시면서 독서 낭독할 때 내용을 이해하시기 바랍니다. Chapter 3. Next morning, Anna Holland went to the court. She was first there. She sat in the courtroom and waited. 해도 되고 waited. A lot of people came in and she saw a man and his wife. Perhaps they are Hassan's father and mother. Anna thought, but she did not want to talk to them. The lawyers came in next with a lot of papers. They sat at the table in front of her and talked quietly. Those two lawyers, Anna thought, they are old friends, but one of them wants my daughter to die, and one wants her to be free. After the lawyers, the jury came in, 12 people, men and women. They sat down and watched the lawyers. They looked at Anna and then talked quietly about her. These people don't look very important, she thought, but they are the most important people here. 그 배심원들이 중요한 게 아니고, 그죠? 잠깐, 완독 중에 잠깐 하나 짚고 넘어가겠습니다. 그들이 중요해. 변호사들이 중요해. 이 말을 하려고 하는 거겠죠? 그죠? But they are the most important people here. They are going to say, she did it, or she didn't do it. And then Sarah comes home to me, or she dies. She watches their faces carefully. Then some policemen came in. Inspector Aziz saw Anna and smiled at her. But Anna did not talk to him because Sarah came in at the same time. She looked afraid and her face was very white. She looked across the courtroom, saw her mother, and gave her an unhappy smile. There were two policemen behind Sarah, but Anna did not look at them. She looked at the tall, dark young man next to Sarah, Hassan. He's about 20 years old, Anna thought. He's very tall, but he has a nice face and very beautiful dark eyes. Sarah likes him, and I can understand that. But he looks very unhappy too, and afraid. His hands are moving all the time. Hassan looked at Sarah and smiled. She smiled back at him. Anna wanted to talk to Sarah, but just then a policeman said loudly, "All stand, please." Everybody stood up and the judge came into the courtroom. He went to his chair and sat down. The police lawyer began. "These two young people came into our country last week," he said. "The young man lives in this country and the young woman is English." At the airport, the police looked in their bags and they found 3 tubes of toothpaste. These tubes of toothpaste. He had the 3 tubes in his hand and he looked at them. Everybody could see them. "But are they tubes of toothpaste?" he asked. No, men and women of the jury, they are not. Oh no, there is no toothpaste in these tubes. There is heroin in them. Yes, heroin, a bad, dirty drug. Perhaps the worst drug. People die from this drug. The white death, they called it. The lawyer stopped and looked at the jury. He waited for a minute or two. The courtroom was very quiet. Then he began again. But why? You ask me. Why did these two young people have this heroin in their bags? I can tell you. Because heroin is one of the most expensive drugs too. They can sell these tubes of heroin in our country for perhaps 80,000 pounds. 80,000 pounds. Easy money. And men and women of the jury. Many people in our country, young people, school children too, take this drug. At first, it's exciting and they feel happy, but then they need more and more heroin and they need more money to buy the drug. They leave their homes and families. They take more heroin and more. They can't stop. Soon the drug begins to kill them, and in the end they die. The white death. It's not a quick death, and it's not an easy death. Yes, men and women of the jury, many young people and children, your children and my children, remember, die because of this drug. The lawyer stopped again. The jury watched him and waited. He's very good, Anna thought. Very, very good. He's telling the jury an exciting story and they like him. But it isn't good for Sarah. The lawyer walked across the courtroom and stood in front of the jury. But my friends, he said to the jury, we have a law in this country, and the law is not difficult to understand. When people bring heroin into this country, they bring death too. We need to stop these people. And how can we do that? The answer is easy. The law for these people is death. The lawyer walked back to his table. Now, please, look at these two young people here in this court, he said to the jury. They brought heroin into this country. The airport police are going to tell you about it. Please listen carefully. It's not a long story, and remember, the law is death. The police lawyer sat down and an airport policeman went to the front of the courtroom. Anna felt ill. She looked at Sarah. Sarah was white-faced and very afraid. Anna closed her eyes. Sarah, she sobbed. Oh, Sarah. The police lawyer stood up again. Please tell the court about Sarah Holland and Hassan, he said to the airport policeman. Yes, sir, said the policeman. I found 2 tubes of toothpaste in the girl's bag and 1 tube in the young man's bag. All 3 tubes had heroin in them. Thank you. The police lawyer sat down and Mr. Chung, Sarah's and Hassan's lawyer, stood up. Why did Sarah Holland say when you found the heroin? What did Sarah Holland say when you found the heroin? He asked. Nothing, sir. She began to cry. I see. Was she afraid? The policeman thought for a minute. I don't know, sir. Perhaps she was. Yes. And she said nothing? Are you sure? The policeman thought again. Well, yes, sir. I think perhaps she said. This isn't my toothpaste. This is all wrong. I see. And what about the young man, Hassan? What did he say? Well, sir, he was very angry. He said, It's not heroin. That's not true. You put it there. I see. Thank you. Now tell me, why did you look in these two young people's bags? You don't usually look in everyone's bags. There isn't time. The policeman thought again. Well, no, sir, we don't. I'm afraid I can't tell you, sir. I'm afraid I can't tell you, sir. What did you say? Mr. Chung asked, very angrily. What did you say? Mr. Chung asked, very angrily. Of course, you can tell me. This is a court of law. He looked at the judge. This is a very important question. We need an answer. The judge looked at the airport policeman. I'm sorry, he said. Please answer the question. The court needs to know the answer. Yes, sir. Well, you see, there was a telephone call. Someone telephoned me before the plane arrived. The telephone caller said, There's some heroin on the plane. A young man and a young woman are carrying it. I see, Mr. Chung said. He smiled. That's very interesting. And who made this telephone call? I don't know, the policeman said. It was a man, and he talked in English. I don't know his name. Suddenly, Anna heard a noise. She looked behind her at the door of the courtroom. A tall young man came into the back of the room. Anna knew him at once. It was Stephen, Sarah's old boyfriend. A policeman took him to a chair near Anna. He saw Anna, and for a second he looked afraid. But then he smiled and sat down next to her. 다음 이야기가 궁금하죠? 다음 이야기 챕터 3의 두 번째 그 섹션을 보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 이번 챕터 3의 첫 번째 1부는 세 토막으로 나눠졌는데 그냥 이게 제 개인적인 그냥 유튜브 채널이라 다행입니다. 제가 뭔가 그죠? 브랜딩을 했다거나 뭔가 대단한 그 컨셉으로 했었으면 큰일 날 뻔했습니다. 그냥 개인적인 그 취미생활 또는 뭐 독서, 짬독서 하는 영역이니까 너그럽게 봐주시고요. 저 앞번에도 독서 하다가 끊긴 적 되게 많습니다. 그래도 저희 혼공혼놀 그 구독자 여러분들 아무 말씀 안 하시고 그냥 잘 봐주시더라고요. 지금 시간이 이제 새벽 1시 22분. 새벽이라고 하기엔 좀 그렇고 그죠? 자정 지나서 오전 1시 23분입니다. 저는 이제 집에 가야겠거든요. 여러분들 아직 퇴근 못하신 분들 밤길 조심하시고 집에 가셔서 포근하게 안녕히 잘 주무시기 바랍니다. 이 영상을 들으시거나 볼 때가 아침이나 새벽일 것 같은데 대충 그냥 그렇게 제가 인사드리는 거니까 그냥 잘 받아주시기 바랍니다. 자, 그러면 저희는 다음 챕터 4 말고 챕터 3 끝내는 그 영상으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 자, 굿밤 되세요. 안녕.